You know, I thank goodness for that little car.
Oh, great! She didn't put the placard on. Everyone screws up, and it's up to CARMAN to clean up the mess.
Come on, think, CARMAN.
And creator of CARMAN. So just let's give some context. I obviously came across you due to your work on Superman Classic. Still one of my favorite interpretations of my favorite character.
Thank you.
But now you've expanded into an original idea. This idea has been around for a while. You tried to make a live action version of CARMAN way back when. So just tell us about the origins of the project.
Yeah, it's almost embarrassing how long it's gone on, because then people should look at it and go, "Oh my God, my eyes are melting! It's so great." But it's a thing that it's always been in the background, and then you put it away for a while, revisit it, put it away for a while. But it goes back as far as the Keaton Batman, when everyone was going Batman crazy for this Dark Knight. It was finally the dark version, kind of. Now it doesn't play as dark anymore, but at that time it was darker than the Adam West one. And then so out of that, I thought, oh, what if there was a guy that was kind of like Batman, but didn't have all of his resources? He wasn't rich, but he was this pissed off guy with his car. And that's when I started. And it was at that time that I was starting to drive and experiencing road rage for the first time. So yeah, kind of like what you mentioned, I had my own home video camera. So I thought, oh, I'm going to film this. And it was a little bit of a Batman parody at first. But then the more that I drove a car, I realized, no, I don't need to parody Batman. This guy will just be a pissed off guy. And it's harder and harder to create villains that people like, because, people can get insulted if it's tapping into something that they're like a collective part of. But if you can find a villain that we can all hate, I think we can all hate bad drivers or people that are inconsiderate. And really, primally, that's what it is. Beyond cars or anything, it's people that are inconsiderate. And then, Curb Your Enthusiasm came along the way during this whole run. And I'm like, okay, that's what kind of Larry David is. He just hates inconsiderate people, and then he's inconsiderate himself. So there's like this super funny, hypocritical aspect to it. So I figure that's kind of what CARMAN is. So it's kind of like Larry David, but with the physicality of Snake Plissken from Escape from New York and limited resources. And then so I would film it, and then... What's that now?
Curb your Plissken, basically.
yeah. And so I had film my little live action version. I didn't get very far. I didn't know what I was doing. I don't even think I had a script or storyboards or anything. I was just filming dumb ideas. And then, forgot about it for a little while, but I would draw. Then I start drawing what he would look like in animation. And then, my Disney career took off. So this is from 89 Batman era to then I'm getting hired at Disney in 94 or 92. 94. Oh my God. Okay, it's 94. Lion King was in theaters. So then I started drawing it and then realizing, okay, all this stuff would play funnier in animation because it's not imitatable behavior. It's a little bit more outrageous and big. And because road rage also, has its dark side and dark stories. And in going through all these eras, it was a hot news item for a while, with people even having guns in their cars and stuff. So it was something maybe you wouldn't want to make fun of. So then it became like, okay, well, I wouldn't want to do it in live action because that's too dark. But in cartoon form, maybe it can be really funny. And then I just started chipping away at it. And then through the course of my career, you work on assignments that you love and you're so in. And then you work on assignments where it's a little harder to be excited about. You always do your best, of course, but or maybe, you work with crews where you feel like you're really contributing and you're really valued. And then you work on other crews where maybe you feel like you're not quite so cherished. And so it was great to, I'd come home from work and I'd maybe piss and moan about, what's going on at work. And then I realized, well, I can draw my own cartoon. And then I don't have to take any notes that I don't like. And I can just draw them the way I want to. And that's kind of, that's the same theory with Superman Classic and Flash Gordon. And so then it helped my work life too, because then I can go to work and I would get a note that used to really make me mad because I stand for the art. And then I realized, you know what? No. This at work, I'm not being that kind of artist. I'm doing art, but it's a product for somebody else. It's somebody else's vision. and you're paying me. Of course, I'm not being paid to do my vision. I'm being paid to do your vision. So it really separated that. And I was able to take notes better at work and not get so riled up about it and understand it. Because then I knew I had something to come home at too, that I wasn't having to take notes on. And I could just, that way I could do my artistic vision. And then it's funny, then I am an artiste because I'm not getting paid for it. It's just for that artistic expression, really.
But you mentioned the kind of physicality of you doing it in animation. I think you can see that in particular in there's the man who's parked in the disabled parking space, and every movement of his is so flamboyant and so exaggerated in a really charming way. So I can definitely see that would play better in that medium than a live action.
Right, that would have been tough to do in live action, or I maybe would have had to CG a guy or do a really high tech trick, but would it ever be as funny as a drawing? Some things are. I love CG, and I work in CG a lot, and there's camera moves and dynamic, cinematic camera work can be done, and it's great. But sometimes you just can't beat a funny drawing, and there's things that drawing I think still will always just be better. And in that case in point, I think that little man doing the little flips and stuff, it's funnier as a drawing to me.
Absolutely. Also, you're like the artistic director, but you've also stepped kind of in front of the camera in this, and that you're doing voice acting as well, which is that a new thing for you? Is this your first time sort of putting yourself out there in that way as well?
Yeah, a little bit. And then it's funny, ideally I would have wanted an actor to do it, and back then in 89 and 90, and so I didn't have access to actors. I do now. I have a lot of terrific actor friends. But at the time I didn't. So I thought, oh, shoot. I mean, I'll just do it for the scratch. And then maybe sometime, if I'm lucky, I'll get somebody to overdub it. And then I would read, one of my heroes, of course, is Walt Disney. And he decided early on that he needed to voice Mickey Mouse because, kind of like me, he didn't have a lot of resources yet. And he thought, well, if I get an actor, then I'll always have to get that actor to do Mickey. What if we do line changes and stuff? But I'm Walt, I'll always be around, so I'll just do it. So it kind of, that same theory worked for me with CARMAN. Like, I'm constantly changing and adding lines to this little animation. And to have to track down the same actor every time might have been a challenge, especially since it's through so many years now. And I've recorded a lot of stuff that is still there from, it's 15-year-old recordings now, and then I have to mix it in with my voice now. Hopefully the voice didn't change that much, or music can cover it up. But I've recorded stuff as recently as last year, and it was great to not have to track somebody down. So maybe the voice could be better. And then in animation, I could have somebody ADR it, but you really you animate to the frame, to that performance, and then to get ADR would be a little bit challenging too. So for now it'll just be me, and God, if it blew up and took off, then it'd be great to get a real actor so he could sound great.
I do think your voice works very well with it, though. It must be kind of cathartic. Well, it must be kind of fun to actually. This is the message you're sending, but to actually get to deliver the message literally yourself must be a lot of fun as well.
That is part of the fun, and that's the same thing too. Again, I don't want to come here. I love 2D obviously, and I'm not here to bash 3D. I love 3D too. Maybe my favorite animated movie might be The Incredibles. So I love 3D, but the advantages of 2D has always been, and all of my 2D peers kind of say, it's the pencil to the paper. It's directly from the artist to the audience, and that's great. So with CARMAN, I have that extra element that it's me voicing it, it's me drawing it. It is directly me to an audience that I'm trying to build.
Yeah, it's kind of unfiltered.
Yeah.
You mentioned actually like your love of 2D animation. That is the identity of your channel as well. You say like where 2D animation kind of thrives and lives. You also one of the aspects of CARMAN I love is the background behind the scenes stuff. You're giving tutorials as well to encourage other people. That's a great thing to be doing. And are you having fun sort of like letting people peek behind the curtain somewhat there?
I do love it, yeah. And I hope I come across as being very enthusiastic when I talk about it, because I love talking about this stuff. And so adding that was great. And that was also another thing too about trying to get, I got so many views on Superman because there's this built-in audience. I post a cartoon and then all the Superman blog sites blog about it. With CARMAN, I was like, how am I going to get anyone to watch this? And I did reach out, I used kind of my Disney leverage. I reached out to Mark Hamill. I thought, well, he does a lot of great voices He's got the big Star Wars fandom, obviously. Maybe I can get Mark Hamill to ADR CARMAN to get attention to CARMAN. And it was really hard because, he's part of a union, the Screen Actors Guild. And you have to jump through a lot of hoops. I would have had to register CARMAN with the Screen Actors Guild as a project. That costs a fee. If I wanted to break it up in segments, that gets more complicated. I'd have to pay not only the session fee, but I'd have to pay health insurance for the person who brought the project in. I'd have to pay health insurance for Mark Hamill. Like, it got to be like, wow, this is a thread, and I'm just going to keep pulling on this thread. So I kind of like, how am I going to get people to watch CARMAN? They're not going to do a search for CARMAN. They're not going to. And so it was Steve Silver, good friend of mine, who's an awesome artist, and he's a great teacher. He kind of said, hey, well, people love tutorials. They love learning. And we take it for granted in Hollywood that everybody knows how to do animation, but you got to think globally. So why don't you put a tutorial on there? So I thought, wow, that's great. And I love doing independent films instead of just a tutorial only on animating. What if I do all, I know I'm going to have 6 episodes of CARMAN because I have I had 7 minutes 6 or 7 minutes in the bank that I've been animating for years. And I thought, God, it's going to take forever to do all 7 minutes. Why don't I learned from Superman Classic? If I do 1 minute at a time, it's doable, and I'll finish it. I'll see it through. So I'll break these 6 minutes into 6 episodes, and then each one can have a tutorial. And then why don't I make the tutorial kind of helping anyone else who's like me, who's always wanted to do their own films? I'll show every step of the process, and then make it interactive. I put a special email on there, Robb Pratt, CARMAN@gmail.com. So if you're working on your film and you get stuck, you can ask me a question because I've done all the hard work of figuring this stuff out. I wish I had me to ask those questions too.
Well, it's funny as well because in your Superman Classic and Flash Gordon Classic as well, you give a kind of a behind-the-scenes talk there, and I think it's good to give a context. Like when I came across Superman Classic, I didn't know who you were, but having your actual perspective and knowing why you made it really obviously it gave personality to it as well.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. And we are at a different age where people interact with the artists. And I think I've heard, I hope it's true with CARMAN, that people want to be along for the journey. They want to see you struggle, and then they want to feel like they're a whole part of it, and then they want to see the end result, and they can get an emotional connection with you. And I hope that's true. And I know, God, when I was a kid watching cartoons, if I could have somehow contacted Chuck Jones or Glenn Keane, I would have been on there trying to do it. Not that I'm in that same class with them, but I would be reaching out to all my animator people that I look up to. So I would hope people will dig the work, check it out,
and
start
also
friendships.
Well, I've seen as well, you've gotten fan art as well to the Facebook, you posted on the Facebook page. That must be kind of gratifying to see different interpretations of your character as well.
Yeah, I love it. I love it so much. And I love when, the people that have sent it in are such fabulous artists, and they didn't just do a tracing or a copy of the way I draw CARMAN. They do their own take on it, and I don't know if there are enough words to describe how cool that is. It's just so awesome.
What's funny is that in years from now, there might be someone doing a CARMAN Classic, which is where they totally reinterpret the character as well.
Wouldn't that be crazy? Yeah.
You mentioned Chuck Jones and Glenn Keane and stuff there, and I wanted to ask you, throughout your career, obviously you have worked on like iconic characters such as like Tom and Jerry, the Looney Tunes characters and stuff. Is it the weird kind of giddy thrill to actually work on a Bugs Bunny cartoon, for example? That must have been sort of like a trippy thing when you did it.
Bugs is a big one because I love Bugs. Everybody knows my love for Superman, and my love for Bugs Bunny rivals it. I just adore Bugs Bunny, and that's maybe even more than the big Disney features, which, even as a kid, they were beautiful, but they would seem long to me. I love the short 7-minute Bugs Bunny cartoons, and that's what made me fall in love with this art form. So drawing Bugs, I got to work on, Bugs a couple times now, but one great time was on Looney Tunes Back in Action. I was animating on that right after 2D kind of died at Disney. And I did get to do a scene of Bugs saying, "And what's up, Doc?" And it was just bliss. But what was great is you're drawing this character. A lot of times, look, there's pluses and minuses to everything. When you draw a new character like Hercules, that's great, but we're trying to figure him out as we're going that year. And it always felt like after a year of animating Hercules, right at the end, you felt like, okay, I'm ready to go. I know how to draw this guy now. But the job was over. And then that character had only been developed for 2 or 3 years. Now you're working on Bugs Bunny, who's been designed over decades and polished, and so many people have had their take on it, and it finally evolved to like this perfect, for me, like around 1950, where you could turn the guy around and everyone knew what he looked like from every angle, and it was perfected. And so now you're drawing, it's kind of like getting into a car that's just finely tuned up and driving it around, and everything works perfectly on it. And I just adore him. So that was, I got to direct some, little Wabbit cartoons with him a few years ago too, and I just adore him. He has a lot in common with Superman. At Warner Brothers, they kind of pitched me the take like, oh, we want to get away from him being a corporate symbol and safe. We want him to be the wascally Wabbit again. And then I got on my soapbox. And I go, you got to understand the psychology of him. And everyone, even at Warner's, when I got there, they knew my love for Superman. I go, there is a parallel. There's kind of this empowerment angle where Bugs Bunny never just like messes with somebody for no reason. He's always like average Joe American, just doing his own thing. And then it's somebody coming in and building a skyscraper on his rabbit hole, or a hunter. And then the empowerment is like, oh my God, I wish I was as smart as Bugs Bunny. I wish I could talk so fast that the heads were spinning on my villains. I guess I needed aluminum siding. I didn't know I did, and I could change into costumes. And I love that empowerment angle on him.
Yeah, it's definitely, he's always provoked. He's never a bully, which is obviously both characters are very similar in that way.
Yeah. Oh, and I gotta say this because it never happened, but as I was finishing up on Wabbit, because I was obligated to go to Elena of Avalor, that was already set, and so I'm directing these Bugs Bunny cartoons. On my way out the door, we did talk about, wouldn't it be great if we could have done one where Superman made an appearance, or the Justice League, into a Bugs Bunny cartoon. But first, but they only appear at the end. It would have been Lex Luthor is trying to take over the world, but he messes with the wrong rabbit. And Bugs Bunny is so smart, he outsmarts Lex Luthor. And so by the time the Justice League shows up at the end, Bugs went, got it covered. That would have been great.
Lex sort of turned left at Albuquerque to avoid Bugs Bunny.
Right.
But I just want to talk about Elena of Avalor as well, which has been a hugely successful series for you, and you've directed a number of episodes as well. So obviously we've been talking about sort of you making your own cartoons and your own vision, but in that you were the creative vision behind those episodes, but you were still working within characters. So how was that experience of coming to like a show like that and directing?
Oh God, yeah, I've loved working on Elena. What a great show, and the quality is so much higher than I ever expected when I took the job. And when you work at home, it's great because there is less compromise. You don't have to take notes or anything, but then the collaboration and the people I work with on that show, from my immediate bosses in the studio to the voice actors to the music, everything is just top notch. And it's kind of the ideal situation of when it passes from one person's desk to the other, it should get plussed. And when it goes to the next desk, it should get plussed. And that's what happens on that show. And I'm just so proud of the quality. We've gotten a lot of Emmy nominations this year. We got 8, which I think is the most any show at Disney TVA has ever gotten. So tremendously proud of the show, and it just the greatest experience ever. And we deal with partner studios on that show because, when you're working in movies, and let's say you're making a Moana, that's all you have to make 70 minutes of footage, and you've got like 5 years to do it. It's all done in one place. With Elena, we've got to do 25 half an hours in 1 year. So we have to have partnership studios. So we had a partner studio in Paris. I got to go to Paris and visit that studio. We had a partner studio in India and in Canada. So I got to visit our other studios and feel like we're all working together, even though it's global. And really, that's the future, right? And that's how what's great is that's kind of gone into my personal work as well, because you worked on Flash Gordon Classic, and you did that from Ireland while I was drawing here in America. And It's becoming even more so on my personal films. They become little global projects.
It's great how it's opened like that, isn't it? Like it's outside what we would have assumed years ago. Like I never thought I would write a Flash Gordon thing that would be animated somewhere. But the Elena stuff though, it's a very inclusive show as well. I mean, it has like a big audience and it has definite like themes that should be talked about, especially in today's world. So it's great.
Yeah, the scripts have been phenomenal, and just getting the opportunity to already have a great script handed to you, and then just finding every little way to plus it and make it sing even louder and clearer. And then it's funny because it's children's entertainment. You get this good discipline of clarity. How do I make this scene clearly communicate the emotion it needs to communicate, clearly communicate the story beat that it needs to communicate? Just a great experience all around.
Well, that's one of the things actually that in your first CARMAN tutorial we talk about keeping a story direct and you say primal and basic. And I definitely think as someone who's absorbed your work over the years, your grasp of storytelling is very strong.
Oh, thank you.
Right.
I am obsessive personality. That's how these films get done. I have to be every night. I got to work on it. I got to work on it because my brain is always working on it. And so when I get a concept like story, I just get obsessed about it, and I have a passion for it, and I love it. And I watch all my movies differently since I've gotten obsessed with, because for 10 years I was obsessed with animating, and it was all about performance. When I watched a movie, I was always watching the actor's performance and their body language. And then I got into story, and now I got to rewatch Raiders of the Lost Ark. I got to rewatch Star Wars. I got to rewatch Superman the movie, because Back to the Future, because now I'm obsessed with story. And it's just having fun and being passionate about something.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you mentioned the global nature of your work, being able to work on things with people from other countries. You're also working on a graphic novel, aren't you? Eva Strongbird and Marine.
That's right.
How is that going? And you also did an animated teaser for that, which was right in the wheelhouse of your great 40s, 50s design work.
Thank you. Well, and that is by design. So because of this global thing, because of putting Superman Classic out there, I met you. And I also met Des Taylor, who's a phenomenal pop artist in London. So it was Des who said, we just corresponded, and we both loved that World War II vibe, the aesthetic. I mean, oh my God, every movie should take place during World War II era. And Des was great. He just drew up Eva Strongbird and the Marine. He designed them. He named them. And then he said, hey, Rob, I'm not a big guy on story. Do you want to partner on this 50-50? I'll come up with the visuals. You come up with the story. And I was like, I just come out of a story conference at Disney, a lecture that blew my mind open. And I brought this up on my CARMAN video about story and about keeping it primal, where even a caveman would understand the emotions that you're selling. And it was all about like coming up with the theme. What does a character learn? How do they change? And so light bulbs are just going on all over my head, right as Des is bringing up, hey, I want you to help me on the story on this. So I thought, you know what? I just went to a lecture that blew my mind, and I want to test out these new things that the gears in my head are spinning on. So it was kind of like, well, Des is British and I'm American. Let's make one of the characters British and one of the characters American. And I figured out a theme that somebody needs to learn. And it's always like this kind of universal theme that we can all relate to if you want your story to be popular. And so so we figured, okay, Eva Strongbird will be the Brit and the Marine will be the American. And what makes them come together? How can we make it interesting for them to come together? What is something that's lacking in Eva's life that needs to be fulfilled? What does she need to learn? What is she wrestling with? And then you kind of break it into 3 points. This is all in my CARMAN video. You kind of break it into 3 acts. And, I'm having a blast with it. And then, animating it would take forever. So we're going to try to do a graphic novel. So we've been working on that together. And what I'll do is, I wrote a script. I read it by Des. He gives input. He's always sending me little things of inspiration, little World War II articles he's finding. And so I've been writing it. I have it actually in script form to make sure that we're both aboard. And we wrestle with it. And we butt heads a little bit, but we've got it to a point where we're really super happy with it. I'm so proud of this story. And but there was a point where I'm like, oh man, I am an animator. I want to see these characters alive and moving, and I want to hear them. And now I have voice actor friends. So I'm going to animate like a little teaser for these characters. And it's, yeah, like you said, it's in that World War II aesthetic. And so what's great, in a nutshell, it'll lie these characters together, and it's like a little bit of a theme there. I found a great Audrey Hepburn quote about not throwing away something just because it's old. Things and that's great because I love 2D animation. Why, don't throw something out just because it's old. You need to learn a character is like a little bit maybe new school and a character is a little old school. What happens when these two philosophies come together? Maybe they both learn something from each other. Now I've given away a lot of it, but hopefully it'll be interesting, an interesting read.
Well, here's the thing. Was it harder to structure it for a graphic novel as someone who's so used to like the fluidity of animation and you think in those terms? Was it harder to sort of like, break it down into key moments? Was that a challenge or?
That's an ongoing challenge that I'm in right now. So I did structure all the sequences. I even call them sequences. They're all structured the way you would do an animated movie because that's just the language that I know. And so now adapting that into a different format where you're going to be reading it. But of course, I would love it if people read this and then it got an audience and maybe it became an animated thing someday. So if that happens, I have a written script. I have, a structured beat board that would work for animation. But we'll see. This is a learning curve for me again. But look, learning's fun. I want to be learning my whole life. I want to be one of those guys like when I'm in my 90s, I'm like Miyazaki and people are going, man, look at that Robb Pratt. He is still like just getting better. So, and it keeps you engaged. It keeps your mind active to learn. So this is the current challenge. We did, again, because I'm at Disney, we get great people to come in to lecture. And Jeff Loeb came in and gave a lecture and was great. He was saying, you have to pattern your story after the medium that you're telling it in. And he goes, in comic books, we have to have, like, when you open the page, you'll read, and it's a challenge to always get the final panel at the bottom of the right has to be a little mini cliffhanger because literally you want it to be a page turner. You want people to turn the page. And then normally when they turn the page, it's that left side. That'll be the big, giant artwork splash reveal. So like I took all this in and, I'll try to get it to work with everything that I'm going for. We want Eva Strongbird and the Marine to be awesome. And look, maybe it'll be good. I hope. The goal is that I kind of get the comic storyboard sensibility, but maybe my animation sensibility will bring something new to it. That's the goal.
I agree with you on you can sort of tell when you're reading a comic that's not so well thought out. Like you can see that there's like a villain reveal on this side of the page, and your eye automatically goes to it, and it's spoiled. Like it is a craft to actually pacing a comic like that.
Yeah.
You mentioned old school animation as well, and it's like I know you said that the Incredibles and the 3D stuff, but there definitely is a charm, I think, to classic 2D that can't quite be replicated via 3D animation. It's just not the same. It doesn't have the same kind of texture to it.
I mean, say like I love the Bugs Bunny shorts so much. There's certain drawings I can think of in my head that are the funniest drawings I've ever seen in my life. There's a Daffy Duck drawing in Duck Amuck where he realizes he's been stupid, and there's a stupid look on his face that is so distorted that you could not get as funny. I don't think it's funny in CG. And then you saw in there's an homage to a Chuck Jones cartoon in a Pixar movie in Monsters Inc. when Boo is in a factory and Sully thinks that she's getting crushed and all these things by machinery.
It's referencing the dog, isn't it? The giant.
Probably my favorite cartoon is Feed the Kitty. And it's the same thing where the dog, Mark Anthony, loves this little Pussyfoot kitty, and he thinks that Pussyfoot's being made into cookies. And he can't do anything about it because he's outside the window. And you get all these like, reactions from him. And sometimes it's a held drawing that then kind of melts. And it's super funny. And with all due respect, the Monsters Inc. animators did a fantastic job. But now you have fur moving. It's all, the timing is a little softer. And the drawing, it's just, the face can only do so much. Where in a drawing, you can really distort the face and really make Mark Anthony feel like alarmed.
I can see those expressions.
Yeah, to me, the Monsters Inc. one is great, but it's still the Chuck Jones cartoon is funnier to me.
Yeah, it's pretty funny because as you say that, I can remember like a million Chuck Jones things where even just beads of sweat are funny when a character's face is frozen and it's just like beads of sweat. And like Looney Tunes probably taught me more about opera than anything else when I was a child. Like there's definitely a lot to them.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, I know there's a little bit of a highbrow element too, because of the musical direction from Carl Stalling, bringing in music that was kind of classy.
Yeah, no. I always think obviously Chuck Jones was the creative voice, but I always think people like Michael Maltese and stuff should be celebrated for their writing work on that because they're so indelible, those cartoons.
Yeah. And Chuck Jones, yeah, he's lucky, and I want to pattern myself after him. He gets to put his name on it, but really he had the awesome crew. I mean, from Maurice Noble doing the layouts and the animators he had, just the remarkable crew.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. You're releasing part 3 of CARMAN on Friday.
Yes, CARMAN Part 3 drops tomorrow. So, and for the people who sit through it and are patient, there'll be a animation tutorial on recording dialogue and how you break it down onto an X sheet and how you get it prepared to animate with. So you have to kind of sit through CARMAN for a minute or so to get to that good stuff of the tutorial.
It's a great thing to see, though, and I like the continuing story. It'll be 6 or 7 parts when it's complete.
Yeah, so it'll be 6 parts, but that is counting the opening sequence. So I've got 2 more to go after this one, and I've already got part 4 fully up on reels. A lot of it's animated because it's old animation. The fun is going in and seeing where, if I added this shot here, it'd be more cinematic. This would be funnier. I'm going to cut this bit. It's hard to cut old work, so I keep that to a minimum. But I'll plus scenes. I got better at doing mouth shapes. Now I didn't know. It's kind of the great thing. Ray Bradbury had that great quote of, sometimes you just got to jump off the building and build your wings on your way down. And as I was drawing a lot of this stuff, I knew I was limited in my ability, and I still am too. But I hope I'm getting better. But you just get it out there. Get the work out there so you have something. And that's like getting the clay out and starting to shape it. And then later on, you can make it better. So I didn't know that there was going to be a Cintiq that you could draw on the computer. I didn't know how I was going to put these in a format that was viewable. There was no internet yet. I didn't know you could have it on your phone yet to show people. But you just make it. And then these things will kind of sort themselves out. And so now with the Cintiq, I'm having fun. It's all done at old TV aspect ratio where the sides are cut off. And now I have to fill in the gaps to make it, high def. I didn't know how I was going to do that for a while, but now you have a Cintiq. You just make the file bigger, and then you got to draw in the missing parts. So there's all that stuff to still be done to it.
Well, was it weird going back to old drawings in a kind of a looking at old photographs kind of way? Was it sort of like weird seeing the old designs, your old work?
Yeah, and I feel like I draw him better now, and so you have to weigh. Well, I can't reanimate the whole thing. That's just going to take forever. So what can I do? What am I going to save and to give me that head start to finishing this one? And what am I going to redo? And sometimes it is just, redrawing just the mouths maybe, or it's a fun little game of compromise and seeing how to get it done, but how to get it done where you're happy with it. And then, you know what I'm going to do? Art direction. I'm not a great art director. And I found inspiration for Superman Classic with Hugh Ferris, and I thought, okay, I can just figure out the formula and do it, and I came up with something that I'm happy with. But with CARMAN, I thought, well, I got to come up with something new, but I'm not a great art director, and I couldn't come up. So now, the biggest leap, I think, in this new one is I did kind of figure out something art direction-wise that makes this new one look pretty. It looks prettier than the previous ones, for sure. So now I know that when I'm done with the whole series, all 6 of them are done, I'm going to have to conform them all together to make one long short. And now I'm going to have to go over the first couple episodes with what I learned on the last episodes and redo the backgrounds, redo the art direction. I'll probably go in and fiddle with the animation too. But hopefully people will have fun that have kind of followed along on the journey. Students that are learning, you learn that you're never really done with your thing. You can always make it look better. And but it's super fun. I love it. And during this time when we're all kind of locked down, and I get the blues like everybody else, but it's so important to have something to focus on. And as artists, we're so lucky that we're passionate. And this is something that, as a kid, we all had tough challenges as kids growing up, and I developed drawing as a great escape. And drawing Superman and Bugs Bunny was a great escape. And now here I am, a grown-up, and it's still my great escape. And when I feel sad, I go and I draw CARMAN. I'm drawing other stuff. I want to do an Indiana Jones classic eventually, so I've been drawing Indiana Jones, and it's such a great thing to have a passion to help you cope with things when things get tough.
Oh, absolutely. And also you said, I mean, not to endorse CARMAN or condone him, but he almost gives voice to those thoughts that everyone has but are too afraid to say. So there must be sort of a cathartic quality to it in general.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I just hope the challenge with him, since it's my own character and I can't fall back on other people, is to make him relatable, make the villain always somebody that we can relate to, and yet because the things he does are bad, he's very hypocritical himself. Like Larry David, he's his own worst enemy at times, and that's why I thought it's important, even in the title of the name, CARMAN, the road rage anti-hero. It's important to know he's an anti-hero. He's not Superman.
Yeah,
he doesn't always do the right thing.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. He's very human, but his heart's in the right place, but he's very human.
Yeah. So as you said, it's the flaws that probably make this more interesting.
I hope so.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. And
thank you.
Yeah, it was great. It was great catching up, and looking forward to the continuing adventures of CARMAN, or misadventures, as the case may be.
So you can check him out. I have a Facebook page for him that's ongoing. You can see Pencil Test. It's simply, if you go on Facebook and look for CARMAN, the road rage anti-hero, you'll find it. Send in your own art. Send in your own road rage stories. You know, it could be a place for you to sound off to, and keep track of the films there. And then I post them on my YouTube channel, which is Robb Pratt, where 2D animation is not dead. And that's where you can check out all of the, Superman and Flash Gordon and Bizarro, and hopefully someday Indiana Jones, along with CARMAN and Eva Strongbird and the Marine.
Actually, just a final point there on the Indiana Jones classic thing. Classic sort of, it gives you sort of an exercise to distill a character down to its core essence. So is that kind of a fun way to sort of, like interrogate a character? For example, Indiana Jones, you have to boil down what exactly makes Indy so enduring and so iconic.
Absolutely. For Superman, I knew I'm going to do a 1-minute short because that's about how much time I can handle. So I did make a checklist. If it's going to be Superman, there's like, what are the things that has to be in that short? You've got to see Lois Lane dressing down Superman. You got to see Superman push up his glasses as a nod to Christopher Reeve. You've got to see a cool change. So I had him change in the phone booth while it was getting crushed. These are staples, and if I knew if I didn't get these in, I blew it. So for Indiana Jones, I've made my little list, and I won't give them all away, but he's got to have a whip gag, right? He's got to have a gun gag. He's got to punch somebody. He's got to have an almost losing his hat gag. These are the things that if they're not there, I blew it. I missed it. And then just to quickly say, like, what my take will be on him is, I love Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and people are split on it. But here's what I love about it. They didn't just simply remake Raiders of the Lost Ark, kind of like what the third movie is, Last Crusade. They put Indy in a different location, completely different sidekicks, where he had a tough girl before, now he's got a weak girl. He's got Short Round instead of Saul, like completely different characters. Indy is the only character returning from the sequel, and it still feels like a legit Indiana Jones adventure. I like that he doesn't fight Nazis. He's like in India, which seems so exotic and cool. I love this world traveler guy about him. So that'll be the goal of my short. He's going to be in a new setting that we've never seen him in before. He's going to have new sidekicks that we've never seen before. But I hope by putting all these staple things, it'll still feel like a legit Indiana Jones adventure.
I think we've discussed this before, but I said how the first 10 minutes of Temple of Doom is one of my favorite openings ever. The amount of stuff. I can't wait to see your take on Professor Jones. So.
Thank you. And I have the voice recorded already. The actor has said, "Don't reveal me yet until we get things rolling," but it sounds exactly like Harrison Ford. You're going to think it's Harrison Ford. And then I'm trying to draw him like Harrison Ford, but Harrison Ford, like 38, 40 years old Harrison Ford. So he'll be in the World War II era, 1930s. And we don't have to worry about, look, we're all aging. We don't have to worry about the live action movie coming out where Harrison Ford will be older. It'll be in a different era. Now we get to see Indy back in that 1930s era in a whole new adventure.
Great. I can't wait to see it. Thanks a million again. And
Thank you.
have a lovely day there. Stay safe. Thank you.
You too. You too. Take care, my friend.
Bye.